Is the audio also good? All right. This is Tamer, founder of City Games Vienna. I will shortly tell you about what we do. We are an urban games studio in Vienna, Austria. Our games are like location-based games, but the difference is they are much more inspired from the city. They are urban games because they have a lot to do with the city, actually. Not just using locations as anchor points, but more like being inspired by the location, or that you have to do something with the location. And today I will talk you about our Monster Hunt app that we are currently developing. I will start with a video that we prepared for a crowdfunding campaign we are planning to do. There you can see our studio space, also how the idea was born, and also see a bit of the gameplay. And then I will try showing you the game live as well, since we cannot test it on location with you. And if you want to test yourselves, you can go to the website of the game, monsterhunt.city, and fill in the contact form there, so we can give you also access to the latest builds, so you can try on your own. All right. Hello, this is Tamer, founder of City Games Vienna. I will tell you today about our project Monster Hunt. We are at the moment in front of our studio in the 9th district of Vienna, Rabbit Hole, and I will show you around how and where we work. Come. Actually, we already have 3 Monster Hunt games that we sell in Vienna. They look like this. They are completely analog and you can only play them on location. And actually they also work quite good. And we sell a lot of packs. But the problem is that when Corona happened, a lot of people couldn't go out and many people couldn't come to Vienna in the first place. This is why we thought of doing a digital version of our Monster Hunts, but this time using Google Streetview to discover the city. So we started working on it and I will show you our team working on it at the moment. Here's Natalie working on communication and marketing. Daniela is doing the designs and the illustrations. Since it's Corona times, we still cannot be all on the same location, so Philip is working remotely on game design, and we have also Simon that does the creative direction and style. And behind the camera is Lina that makes the documentation of the project, and I do everything else and managing everything. So for this project we received a little bit of funding that enables us to do a prototype, and we have our prototype now. So basically it works like this. So you have a bit of story and then you are in part of the city where you need to find a monster, and in this case it's the cow with glasses. So you have a monster card that contains riddles and hints about this curious object, and then with these you need to go to the location with Google Street View and then look around for what this cow with glasses can be. And nice thing is also you can look around up and down because of the sensors, and at least feel a bit like you're in the city of Vienna. And once you think you find the object, then you need to enter the code. That's part of the riddle. And when you do, then you get the solution, which is actually the story of why this monster or why this object exists and where it comes from. And a nice illustration from us. And you can also see it, that it's like actually old Renaissance painting of a cow wearing glasses and playing backgammon with a wolf. Yeah. So at the moment we have this prototype, but in the next months we need to do a lot of tests and fix all the bugs before it's ready for being released on the market. And also at the moment we have this iTween Old Vienna game with the app that's to discover the history, but we want to do 2 more packs, 2 more games with the app. One being more focused on museums and culture, and the other one is more the mysterious sides of the city. And for all this we need extra support, and this is why we wanted to present you our project and ask to try out our game and see what you feel and support us if you can. Thank you very much. Alright, that was shortly our video. I would like to show you a bit the app now on a tablet device. I tried to stream from a tablet, but it's not as easy as I imagined. And then afterwards I can show you a bit the conceptual part, a bit of presenting how this process came out. So at the moment the app looks like this. Yeah. So it starts with the map of the Vienna, and then you have then different packs. This is one of the concepts, that the idea is that there are different stories in the city, different themes, and for each of them we do kind of a pack, like a digital pack. This is inspired by actually our games, analog games that are already on the market. We try to make something digital so that it's finding the right analogies, so we can translate the modalities in analog card games to a digital app. And some of the things work, but some of the things we have to think new. I will show you, this is like one pack that is more to discover the history of the city. Some of them are already found out, and it's still like a alpha to beta version, so some things are aesthetically not perfect, but let's try one. So now we're in the first district of Vienna, and this one is actually a monster to be found from the medieval times of the city. And you always have a bit of information from Georgina to our monster hunter. The game is actually in two languages at the moment, German and English. Here you can see the German version, but you can change it easily on the settings. So I will demonstrate quickly. Let's make it English. All right. Oops. Sorry. All right. So basically the game is kind of two main tools. One of them is the map and the street view. So you are now seeing the map. You can see that it's in the first district of Vienna. You can always go back to the game zone like this. And the game zone is defined with a fog. This is showing you where the monster can be. And then you can always switch to street view. And this is, then you are at the starting point of the game. And then for this you need to go further and look around as much as possible. But of course, you have no idea about the monster. This is why you need to use a monster card. So the monster card is on the bottom. This one is called the basilisk. And you have a couple of riddles. And we try to do a scratch-off modality, so it's a bit more fun. And there you see some riddle that you need to answer. And every monster is locked with a password, with a key that is on the other side. And you need to solve this key actually to find or read the real story of the monster and see its true face, so to say. We have some more hints. You can always use this, but with this then you need to go around the street view and find the thing. Let's see. So the riddle here is that it says that it's on a pretzel. Maybe some of you know pretzel or in English. So it needs to be something that is sitting on a pretzel. I will since I know all of these monsters, since we really go around to still looking for all these curious things, I will just accompany you into the thing. This is one of the oldest medieval streets of Vienna. So I will cheat a bit, but as I said, like, you can always try it yourself by sending us a message so we can share the build with you on our website. And it should be somewhere around here. Yeah, this. So this is the pretzel that we're talking about. But actually it's there's an old mythology of a basilisk. So a mixture of a cock and a snake, a rooster and a snake, that apparently turned people into stone that used to live on this point in the medieval times. And then the mythology is like a boy used the mirror and turned it into stone, and then you still see the stoned version here. Of course, this is just a sculpture, but we always use this kind of mythologies, urban stories in the city to make the reality a bit more fantasy-like. The riddle is actually asking for how many depictions of it are there in this street. Because actually if you go further, there's another stone version of it here, which is a bit more difficult to catch. It's actually quite known in the street that there's something like this. And I think it's 2 or 3 depictions. I will try. Yeah, 2. And when you find this, then the monster card unlocks. And then you have the solution. So now you see a more realistic form of the monster and a bit of his story. And you can always go back to the map and click on it, and then it will open directly the location. So you keep on gathering these monsters, and once you play it further, then you can go to the next monster, which is, if I remember correctly, the Chained. Yeah, it's actually a cannonball that was from the Turkish siege. But yeah, I don't want to spoil it so much, so you can always check it yourself. As I said, we designed this so that people who are not able to come to Vienna during COVID can still use this game to find its curiosities. On Google Streetview, you really have a lot of curiosities, but people just don't know it, you know. And one other thing is actually, if you manage to come to Vienna, especially if you're in Europe, it's much easier. Then you can turn on the location, which will enable the GPS, so you can actually see yourself. Now we are not on location; we are in our studio. That's in 9th District. Yeah, exactly here we are visible. So we are a bit far away, but you can use your GPS and come to the game location and actually play it as well on location. Or if you have played it at home, you can come to just see the monster with your real eyes. I think these are the main things from the game. If I go to the pack overview, then you will see that the basilisk is now discovered, and you try to collect all these monsters. So these are the undiscovered ones, and these are discovered ones. Of course, there's still some fine-tuning we have to do for tablets, but this is basically the idea of the game. And as I said, like, feel free to visit our website, monsterhunt.city, and write us there using the contact form so that we can share with you the builds. We already shared the builds actually with Amaze as well, but it's not so easy to demo mobile games. This is why we can provide you with direct links as well. And for the last part, I would like to show you a bit how the design process was. So like last 15-20 minutes, a bit insight to how we designed the game. Because actually it's quite complex to make urban games. There's a lot of connection with real life, with urban design, with research and history. So I will try to first show you how we came here conceptually. And then I can also show you a bit more how the interface was designed. Alright, so let's try. I hope this is fine. So basically we are doing this project with funding from Austria Wirtschaftsservice, and also we got an award from Vienna Business Agency. And these were the first illustrations that we did. And how it started is actually we had already our analog games. As I said, like a card game, but you need to go on location. But when the quarantine happened last year in April, no one was able to go out and play our games. So we tried very fast digital version of it, where we use our website, with some very simple images. We've been already gathering this curiosity since 4 or 5 years now. So we have a huge database of all weird stuff in Vienna. So we made a very fast, simple game called A Monster a Day and released one monster every day during April. And that's what we are now trying to turn into an app. So this was like the first version. It used again Google Streetview with riddles and that you have to answer, and then a bit of story. As I said, like urban games is kind of a new field. There has been already a lot of games or similar activities or artistic projects, but very few games that are more like products or games that you can buy and play on your own. They were mostly like performances or tours, but what we try to do is make them a bit more like board games or mobile games. The design process is a bit complex because you really need to do research and try different styles and then test them and then produce them. With analog games, it's a bit easier. You can see our analog games here. But with digital games, instead of printing, you do app publishing in a way. And we try to publish our own games, sell our own games, because we think now is the age where you directly reach people. So why not use it? As I said, COVID is one reason how we started doing all of this. But another one is this idea of virtual tourism, because even if there isn't COVID, a lot of people would like to see Vienna, but cannot come due to economic reasons or because they have family and traveling is different. So especially with the technology of today, we feel that coming to Vienna digitally or virtually is becoming more and more possible, and we want to use this as well. As I said, it's a digital treasure hunt app in a way, but we make stories for these curiosities using this monster analogy. I will show you quickly. This was the first version on the website that we did, how it looked, just to give you an idea how this whole project transformed in 1 year. This is, for example, the Baroque organ from the Maltese church in Kärntnerstraße in Vienna. And this is a bit just like our first ideas how to price it, how to do community, build community. But also the advantage of app is that once you have a stable app, stable game working fluidly, then you can very easily make games for other cities like Istanbul and London. And this was our biggest challenge when we had analog games, because it's not as easy to do analog games for other cities, but with a digital app then it becomes much easier. this whole game design and style and aesthetics, I will not go too much into details. This is interesting to see the environment, like what kind of games are similar to this. There's of course location-based mobile games. Niantic, Pokemon Go is the biggest player. But there's also Minecraft Earth, Walking Dead, Ghostbusters coming. There's even a Witcher real world coming, apparently. On the other side, you have playful city tours. So apps or treasure hunting to play in the cities, but they're usually very tour-like. So you have to book them. Usually you have a guide, and there's very few storytelling in these. And there's no world and environment building, for example. And the last one is with the VR headsets. It's again possible to travel in virtual environments, and you have some examples that are not as mature as, let's say, Pokemon Go. But for example, Carmen Sandiego was a very cool game from Google Earth, where you have to find her traveling around the locations in the world. I will show you, this is our project team. Some of us are on holiday, some of are on sick leave. So today I'm only here, but we are actually 6 people working on this. But with the app, we have a development partner, Lost in the Garden. That's also a game studio in Vienna, also good friends of us, and they do the software development and technical publishing part. These are the timeline. We are roughly in it, but everything takes a bit longer because of COVID. And as I said, very interesting is to do it for other cities, or maybe do some experiences where you need to go around the world to different cities to catch monsters. But also what's interesting is, how can I say, like working with city institutions. Let's say working with Natural History Museum in Vienna and doing a game for them. Because probably you noticed that most of the museums, they also are available on Google Streetview. So this is an interesting aspect as well. So this was a bit more conceptual part. I will also show you a bit the interface design, because that was the most critical part of the game, how to make an interface for an urban game, and how it evolved during the project. So here's a bit like the style of the logo, and then the fonts we chose, and especially PIS Coffins and Ghosts is a Viennese font that it has this fantasy-like character, let's say. And one interesting part was the palettes, because we actually came up with 2 palettes. The full moon colors, this is when you go monster hunting, everything is dark, a bit gloomy, let's say, and then you have the moonlight colors on locations. But once you catch the monster, once you find this location, then everything becomes summertime colors, everything becomes golden and fresh. This became very critical because the maps use these palettes, and with the new Google Maps platform, we can change this. And this is just like some screenshots from the map on different scale. So this is the haunted Vienna, on full moon. You can see that based on different zoom levels, the map style is also changing. This was one of the tricky parts of the design process. And the same maps in summertime. So when the monsters are happy and they are found and visited by people. This is actually one of the most critical parts as well, visual abstraction model we call it. Because how do you turn real life objects into monsters? So we always have the real object in the city. So if you're on location, you see it like a sculpture, but if you use Street View, they are visible like this. and we have an illustration of them that's a bit more abstracted, so it's more fantasy-like, and here a bit more old style and from different perspective. And then to make the most abstracted version is when they're not discovered yet, and that's the Grimace, we call it. So it still carries a couple of features, but it's not exactly the same, let's say. And then this is our grid for doing the grimaces, and different representations of them on location, as zones or as pins when they are found. As I said, like also the game supports GPS, so you can have positions of your city in different means. And then for each pack we try to use a different style, and for the digital version we try to keep them very clean, fresh, and positive vectorial illustrations. And on top we have this overlay, because we say that like when the monsters are unhappy, when they are forgotten by people, then there's a smoke of grumpiness coming around them, and this we represent with violet overlay effect. And the scratch off is just a minor detail, but we use different patterns just to have a different effect. And then there's the interface part. This is a bit more complex part of it, but in all our games we approach it like this. There's the real world that you can either be on location or be remote using a street view or a virtual environment. And almost all the time you use maps. Maps are very critical. Everyone knows how to use maps. They exist since thousands of years. So maps are the best way to actually navigate the real world. And this, on top of this, we built the game. So everything that is constructed, everything that is fantasy-like, that is taking this real world and making a story out of them, is happening on the game layer. I will go a bit into details of the game layer, but I will also not go too much in depth because it can get boring. So of course you always need to think of a grid. And horizontal, as you can see, some things are not completely fixed because we prioritize mobile and have limited resources. So this is like how the app starts, and you will always see that at first we do the mock-ups, kind of the wireframes for the interface, and then we stylize them and add animations when necessary. So this is the home screen. This is where you see the different packs, and you can always click on them. You can swipe them. At the moment we have the tutorial, and then we have Alt Wien, that's like the old Vienna story. But we want to do 2 more packs within this project. One is going to be a bit more museums and culture oriented, and the other one is about mysterious sides of the city. That's a bit more like magical mystery, fraternities, and this kind of direction. And the packs will be in-app purchases. We still are checking a bit the market for what would be a suitable in-app purchase price. So I guess something like €1 to €3, 3-4 euros per pack, depending on how long the gameplay takes. If you become a tester, you will get this for free. We will add you also so you can test in-app purchases. But would be interesting also to get your opinion, like how much would people be willing to pay for such a game or a pack of a game. And then in pack descriptions you have kind of the story. what's the game is about, and then some basic information like the duration, age, game type, locations, difficulty. And then you have the monsters, and once you purchase them, they become available. And this is how the stylized version looks. And as I said, once you discover the monster, once you solve its riddle, then you see its illustration. So this is the Grimace, the abstracted face of the monster, and this is the real illustration of the monster that is much more similar to what it is in the real life. Some tablet interfaces. And then we have the monster hunting part, the real game part. As I said, there is the game zone, which is defined by the fog of monster grumpiness, let's say. And then you have tools to switch to Google Streetview or the things that show your location. And there's always a story part to it. Sometimes the stories are a bit more, like in tutorial, Georgina explains you more about how the game works. But afterwards, she becomes less, and the focus is more on monster hunting. So this is your interface. And as you realize, like as you walk around with Google Street View, your location pin also moves around. So you always see where you are in the game. And this is how people find their way, because in the beginning it can get very confusing to match this map and the street view. But after a while you get used to it, and then you start to have a sensation of where you are and which direction you're going. It's much more easier on real life, because we navigate daily in the city, unless there's a lockdown. But in a virtual environment like this, it's still not extremely easy to find your way. So this wayfinding is actually another part of a challenge for a mobile urban game. Then we have the card. This is actually an analogy of the of our analog games. I will quickly show you how the cards look in the real life. So these are analog game cards. Of course, you have the map, but here are the monster cards. So they're also scratch off. You can scratch them free. And then you have riddles, and then the grimaces, as I told you, and then the illustrations behind them. And also the game location on the back of the cards. So this was the challenge of this project, to translate this into a digital mobile app version. And that's how we came up with this. We tried with the digital, you have the option to make a riddle, like a real riddle that you need to answer. And we came up with the lock modality, so similar to a bike lock. You need to put in the code. It's still not optimized. There's still some problems visually, or it's difficult for people to understand this analogy immediately. That's what we see from internal tests. But for example, scratch off works very good. It's very clear. People find it very nice, and it works clearly. And the cards help you. They are basically the main thing to help you navigate, but Street View is the other one. So here you have a view of the portal, we call it. So as you know, the Street View is a very basic tool, but we use this analogy of a portal. So basically you have Georgina's hairpin that can puncture a hole in time-space, and this is how you can go to that location. In the story world, it's a bit more fitting into it, but everyone immediately realizes it's actually Google Street View. In the future, we also consider building our own Street View. Since we're in Vienna, we can go and make 360 photos, videos of this environment. But this is a lot of implementation, and at this point it's just much easier to just Google Street View. Also because they have the whole city, so you can also navigate. You can just walk around. If you want, actually, in our game also, you can just leave the game zone, go completely somewhere else. This is enabled. And we also have the accelerator, so you can really look around in the app. Just to give you a bit of feeling that it looks like a real, like a window or a portal to Vienna. And as I mentioned, that if you walk around in the street view and then go back to the map, you will realize that your location pin is also moving along with you, so that you know where you are within the game location. And once you answer this riddle, once you put in the right number, the card translates, and then you have the solution. You have a more realistic illustration of the monster, or what we see as the curiosity. And some trivia, like its location, GPS coordinates, and also a story. And then you can switch to the next monster. And you can always use the street view to, again, directly see the monster on location. We did also a very small progress bar showing you your progress on the corner. But you can also see it when you test it. And of course, we had a lot of ideas, but as good game designers, we have to ditch some of them because it's a lot of work to realize everything. But in the future, we can say that you can switch between monsters also during monster hunting. And the burger menu is a very typical menu. I don't have to go too much into detail, but you have settings and feedback part and this kind of things. That would be it, roughly. So I hope you understood at least a bit better how such a game can work. It's still challenging for us to not just make a game that's really functional, make an urban game, and that not very similar examples exist. My colleague suggested me to show the website, so I will also show it quickly. As I said, now we are looking for people to test our game, to try to tell us what works and what doesn't. The website is monsterhunt.city. Let me drag it here. So we have a bit of explanation. We are also nominated in the Explorer Award of Amaze. So tonight, don't forget to come and visit us as well on the award ceremony. So just to finish with, this is the website. It's a very last-minute website, so please forgive us if there are some mistakes in it as well. But you again see some screenshots, how the game works. And here you can register for tests. Once you register, we will come back to you and ask for things like which device you have, which operating system, which version, just to have a bit of understanding, and then we'll provide you with a link to test the game. So for Android, it's a build. For iPhone, it's a test flight link for iOS. And then after you try and test the game, then we would ask you to answer some questions on a survey just to see what worked, how well things worked, how well they didn't. And that would be it. So thank you for listening. I hope now you have a better understanding of the game. As we said, do not hesitate to write to us so that we can share and let you try, since now it's really not possible to try it remotely.